from building companies to now you're building people.
As soon as I joined 99 Acres, India was hit by COVID. Now it was my time to give back.
When you are building something from scratch,
We might see a future where the system of big enterprises no longer exists.
how do you define your early hires versus late hires?
We were growing so rapidly that every fine day when you come to office, there is, one or two new faces.
People who are looking at employing graduates from these colleges, do they really value skills as much, or
Now, over the last few years or maybe a decade now, the things have started to change very fast.
Hi everyone, I am Piyush Nangru and this is Out of Office, where founders, creators, builders, innovators step out of their offices and talk about their stories, their struggles, their experiences, their journeys. So today we are talking about something really important. For more than 200 years, work has been driven by one single principle: produce more, consume more, work more, and repeat. But the question is, how do we move from industrial revolution mindset to an industrial evolution mindset, where people, growth and values, all three of them go together hand in hand? Our guest today has seen this shift up and close. He studied at IIT Delhi and IIM Calcutta, then worked at JPMorgan Chase in New York and London. He then helped build and scale companies like Rivigo and OYO. Now he helps leaders and students think about their leadership, their work and their impact. Please welcome Alok Srivastava.
Thank you so much.
So Alok, you have lived many careers and have had many transitions, from corporate giant like JPMC to startups like OYO, 99 Acres, Rivigo, and then starting something on your own as well. You've been a co-founder as well.
Yeah.
And now to your current phase, where from building companies to now you're building people. Maybe walk us through your, overall this roller coaster journey, and how much of it was by accident and how much of it was by design.
Thank you so much for having me here. And much of the journey has been through design, but maybe I'll say I did not know it. Somebody has designed it. But yeah, so I started my career with JPMorgan, a behemoth. Learned a lot of things there right after my MBA at IIM Calcutta. And then I came back to India and I joined Lanco, which was an infrastructure conglomerate, worked there for 4 to 5 years. The reason for coming back to India was, ultimately, I had this plan of working outside for some time, but eventually coming back to India. It happened sooner than later, and that I think was a divine plan, if I were to say. So worked here for 4 years in Lanco, had a good exposure with a company with about 25 SPVs and 6 different businesses, worked directly with the chairman in the chairman's office. Now this was a period around 2014 or 15 where I had already spent 4 to 5 years there, and India, was becoming a country of startups, and I think everybody, was being bit by that startup bug.
Yeah.
And I could see that energy and feel that energy all around, and so there was this intense surge of, going into that ecosystem, the startup ecosystem. And then I found the opportunity to join Rivigo, which was just starting out at that time. I was the 12th corporate employee. We had just transitioned from our pre-series A to
This is 2014?
2015.
15.
Early 2015. So I spent good 2 years there, and when I say good, I mean really good. I mean, the first holiday that I took after joining Rivigo was maybe after 6 months. Yeah. And that too was a half-day holiday, and I felt very guilty about it, because such was the energy, such was the enthusiasm, and such was the rigor. So 2 years there at Rivigo, worked in products, worked in launching businesses there, conducted a lot of trainings and for a new business that we were launching. So 2 intense years at Rivigo, and that gave me the confidence that this is something that I can also do, and that gave me an idea to work on, and which I had discussed with one of my close friends from IIM Ahmedabad, Nishit, about 2 to 3 years back, around property management. So after 2 intense years at Rivigo, I just thought that it's time to take a plunge myself.
Nice.
So we started out Renoso, which was an end-to-end property management firm for people who were living away from their property, and we were helping them manage it. And our aim was to make property management as easy as it is to manage an equity investment. Ran it for a few years, and I think those are one of the best years of my life, right, that startup. After that, for we had to close it down for some reason after 2 to 3 years of running it. Then I came back to the startup ecosystem, joined OYO, and in OYO I was looking after their UK and Latin American portfolio on the transformation side. I was the central transformation head for these 2 regions. You might call it a divine intervention that after 8 to 9 months at OYO, I got the offer to join 99 Acres as the India head for the rental business, and as soon as I joined 99 Acres, India was hit by COVID, in fact the entire world, and hospitality was one business which was severely hit. So I would say I had maybe a lucky escape, right, and I joined 99 Acres, which was again a very challenging task because the entire industry was shaken by COVID, especially the rental business where I had joined in. So good, tough first year at 99 Acres, and then after that things started to improve with the market coming back. So was at 99 Acres for 4 years, heading their business for residential rental vertical, and post that I joined as a CEO at a firm called AltoView, which was a confluence between infra and augmented reality, virtual reality, tech, civil engineering, everything. So they were end-to-end system integrators for mega projects for Government of India. So again B2G. So this was my corporate journey over the last 16-17 years. During this journey there was this urge of giving back, and it started right after my startup kind of we had to wrap our startup, and I began to question myself, what exactly am I here and what am I supposed to do, right? You ask those deeper questions when something big really hits you, and fortunately I started to get a few answers. So from 2019, which was the year when I had wrapped up my startup, I started to divert good amount of time on certain endeavors which were not totally focused on my family or my professional endeavors. Slowly and gradually, half an hour, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 2 hours, into endeavors which were not about me or my family, but which were more about the society, and totally selfless, I mean voluntary. And I started to get a lot of a sense of fulfillment, and that kind of continued, and it's still continuing till today. And I think somewhere down the line, that urge and that commitment and that feeling peaked in 2025 when I was a CEO at AltoView, and I decided that whatever journey I have had, big or small, in whatever way, now it was my time to give back in a meaningful manner, and therefore I chose to kind of retire from corporate life and delve into the vast ecosystem that India has in terms of universities, in terms of incubators, in terms of other ecosystems where the next generation is coming out, right? And the question was, what do I have to give? And fortunately I had something, and this something was not in terms of skills or knowledge per se. this was maybe a small understanding that I gathered over the last 17, 18 years or 20 years, that to succeed, just the skills or the traits or the knowledge is not enough. Because being a founder, being a corporate leader, being a student, I always face these challenges, and if I just drill it down, it came out to decision making at any given point of time. So let's say right now you and me are speaking, and I have a choice of speaking very respectfully with you. At the same time, I have a choice of speaking not in a respectful manner. I always have those two choices wherever I am, whatever I am doing, whether I am a leader, I am a student, founder, whoever. These choices are there in every moment of my life, every moment of your life. Taking the right choices continuously in all these moments is what I believed is giving you and me the success. And that success is something that I wanted to discuss. Now, how do we do that? So I had read a lot of books in my life, and from a particular author, maybe it's Mr. Pandit Sriram Sharma Acharya ji, and he had written a lot about life's teachings and spirituality and scientific spirituality and applications that we could have in our life. And I always tried to see how can it be applied to business, how can it be applied to corporate life, because that's a major part of my life, your life, everyone's life. So we came out with this framework called BISS, which was around 4 pillars based on various things that came out from the books and life, and which could be applied, which could be used as a framework, which could be used as a operating system for any decision maker. And I just thought that maybe this is something that could be taken to the students, that could be taken to the founders of tomorrow, the founders of Bharat, the founders of India, and maybe that will help them in taking the right decisions, which are not only important for them, for their family, but for the society, for the nation and the planet. So
definitely, I think if you really have to create that impact on builders of tomorrow, the educational institution, the colleges, that's the right place to be, which is I would totally agree with that. We'll certainly get to this part of your journey and also the interesting BIZS framework as well. Now you have worked in early stage startups as well, right? And you mentioned that you've not taken a leave for first 6 months, and I'm sure there must be a lot of chaos in building all of that, right? So when you and you were one of the early founding members, so when you are building something from scratch, when do you transition from chaos to a structure? Is it like a switch, or is it like a slow gradual process? How do you transition from everything is everywhere to that's how my reviews are going to be done to that's how the processes are going to be? So how does that transition look like? How did you experience, and were there any fallouts of that?
Right. Very interesting question. So how it happened with me, at the first 2 startup experiences that I had, was to have that awareness that this needs to happen. Somewhere down the our path, it will happen. That awareness needed to be there. And the second awareness which needed to be there was, it is not happening right now, because when you are only 12 people, or when you have just a few offices and you have such growth to happen, and you do not even have funds to hire so many people, you just go to the field, you just go on the roads and do it yourself. But at the same time, while you are doing it, you are all constantly thinking that I need to prepare a process for all of this, but I am the first person who will experience it, who will know how things are done, who will know what are the nuances, where is the gap, where does the process break down, what are the learnings, and after that, once I am like pretty confident, I'll mold my team also into the same structure, because I have to be the first one doing things myself, right? And then I have to mold my team also into it, and post that, having that cap on that, after 2 months, after 3 months, after 6 months, or maybe after 8 months, we have to transition. And this is something that you kind of tell the team also, because interestingly, what I kind of witnessed, and I think many founders witness, is that there is a certain dopamine when you do the things yourself, right? I remember one of the initial days where even in Rivigo, we were growing so rapidly that every fine day when you come to office, there is 1 or 2 new faces. Office space is limited, seats are limited, and we came to the office and we did not find seats for ourselves, and we said that fine, we'll go to the market, we'll buy some furniture and come back, right? So that gave us a high, right? We are the owners, we have such high ownership, right? But this was not sustainable. Same thing, similar incidents happened at my own startup Renoso also. But somewhere down the line, having that awareness that fine, in this chaos also there is a learning, there is a final process, there is a final SOP that needs to come out from this, and the deeper we have the experience, the better will the SOP be, and the better will the execution be. So I think this awareness inside me and the team, and going to that final phase where we transition into that, and then we go to level 2, and the level 2 the same exercise starts, because in level 2 again we do not have processes, we are doing it for the first time, we have raised 1 or 2 rounds of funding, we are looking at bigger tasks. So now the exercise starts again for these level 2 activities, where level 1 already is now in a process. So I think this is the way it kind of happened with us. So no particular switch per se, but a transition.
Got it. And hiring becomes a very important part of this chaos, and for that matter, any startup journey. How do you define your early hires versus late hires? किस तरह का difference होता है in scrutiny when you are hiring as a early stage startup जो अभी PMF भी नहीं हुआ है, product market fit भी उसको करना है, versus when the roles get more defined. So how does your hiring differ, and how does your scrutiny of the person differ? More also, one is at a skill level where more generalist and specialist I can understand, but also from a attitudinal perspective, is there anything which is different?
No, absolutely. Thank you for asking that. Something very close to my heart. So I'll start by telling you a small story.
Sure.
So at Rivigo, when we hired the team in 2 stages, right? First was the initial team with me, Nishit, and the first few hires that we had with us. And then there was a second set, when we had raised 1 or 2 rounds of funding, and we, kind of expanded our team. So there were 2 levels. Now, before coming to the final conclusion, I'll tell you the story is that once we had kind of shut the shop in end of 2018, and we were on the lookout of raising funds for ourselves. That was supposed to be the 3rd round, and it was a tricky time for us. We had almost ran out of funds, right? And we just needed believers. So people who wanted to move out could, and we had a few months a month's salary for everyone, so that, and we also helped them place. But there was also an option on the table that you can just stay back if you want, right? And me and my partner, we are anyways trying to raise funds for the startup. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, we all bid goodbye. So you will be surprised to hear, Piyush, that out of 42, about 15 people kind of stayed back with us, and they stayed back for 4 months, and that too when there was no salary, right? And so now who were these people? Most of these people were the ones whom we had hired in our first phase, right? And nothing to say against the second phase people, but this was the difference. So the first phase of people which we hired and which I believe startups should go after are the believers. So we had a very detailed round for them. It was based out, of course, for skills, but it was heavily tilted towards their traits. I remember me and Nishit, speaking to candidates for hours and hours, and we used to then kind of take 3 or 4 rounds, and we used to see their innate trust building skills. Can we trust them as a person? Are they believing in our idea? Not me or Nishit per se, but are they believing in this idea of Renoso? And then of course in us. So we got the believers. And in the second round, when we had kind of raised the funds, then we were more looking at people who were believing in the idea, but who also had the skill sets. So maybe we were going at senior level people who have maybe worked in the industry, in banks or in other big real estate firms, and who know the skills. Sales, yes. Product, yes. Marketing, yes. So yeah, I think that was the difference.
Yeah. If I can talk about the same here, the first 50 odd hires, all the founders have to meet the first 50 hires. So that was the kind of scrutiny. So that that cultural alignment is so high.
Yes.
And I think the story which you narrated is also because they felt the people who join early, they also feel way more invested, and they feel that it's their baby, they have built it. So that's why their attachment by virtue of joining early is also very high, per se.
Absolutely.
But let's address something which is almost never discussed too openly. And I'm picking this from what you said, that you could not take a leave for first 6 months. What about the burnout? Is it for real? Is it too glamorized? Do you think there is much more sensitization around it these days? Has things changed as compared to 16, 17 versus what it is now 10 years later? So just wanted to get a sense on what are your views here?
No, very relevant question. And so I'll narrate my my experience of the burnout, and burnout is real. The first story is of someone very close to me, and we are human beings. We have our responsibility towards ourselves, our loved ones, our family, our society, our friends, our neighbors, because we have invested so much, right? So much in them. They are a part of our life. So the first story is of someone very close who almost faced a depression, right? Someone I know very close. And maybe one of the things which I kind of can put my finger on is that the kind of time that was expected out of me to be invested in that in friendship or relationship, whatever, did not kind of happen, right? And people have different responses for different activities and circumstances. So that was my first experience, right? That me working so hard, going to the level of burnout myself, is also causing or also having an effect on someone very near to me. So that's number one. Number two, and that point is especially you kind of hit the nail on its head, and this is something which I really asked myself, right? When we could not raise our last round of fund and we had to shut the shop, why was I doing it? What was my reason, right? And somewhere down the line, that the ecosystem that is created around startups, कोई founder है, अरे ये तो founder है, देखो इसकी तो कहानी योर स्टोरी में आ गई, इसकी तो कहानी टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया में आ गई, इसको तो इतने लोग जानते हैं, इसका तो देखो यहाँ पे अब आजकल शार्क टैंक है एंड ऑल दैट. सो यू नो a big part maybe somewhere was the glamour and glitz behind being called a founder, and then the other things which came together with it कि यार बंदा तो 90 आवर्स भैया काम करता है, तो मतलब सैटरडे संडे ही इज़ लाइक टोटली डिवोटेड, ही गिव्स हिज 100%. You are not saying this to you to yourself, but you are hearing it from the society. And it comes to you कि भाई आप तो फाउंडर हो, आपको तो करना ही है. You feel very cool कि मॉर्निंग वॉक पे भी आप जा रहे हैं और आप डील्स की बातें कर रहे हैं. You feel very cool. इवनिंग में आप फ्रेंड्स के साथ ड्रिंक्स पे हैं और तब भी आप एक कॉल उठा रहे हैं कस्टमर का, एंड यू आर जस्ट शोइंग कि बॉस यू आर so devoted to your work, you are just so devoted to your customers that even a 31st night ka party mein you are sparing 30 minutes, and it all came crumbling down. It all eventually comes crumbling down because that glitch, that glory is, you know, I would now call it a bubble. उस समय तो मैं नहीं बोलता था. It's a learning, and that is something, Piyush ji, which I you know, I want to at least now tell my experience to whoever I meet. जब भी मैं फाउंडर से भी मिलता हूँ, I tell them कि बॉस आपका बना रहे हो आप बहुत अच्छी बात है, लेकिन आप ये देखो कि ऊपर वाले ने आपको सिर्फ एक कंपनी बनाने के लिए नहीं पैदा किया. दिस इज़ अ पार्ट ऑफ योर लाइफ, बट दिस इज़ नॉट द ओनली पार्ट ऑफ योर लाइफ. you've got your relationships, you've got your parents, you've got your family, you've got your society. They are an integral part of your life. एंड अगर आपने उनको नज़रअंदाज करना चालू कर दिया एंड आपका खुद का रीज़न इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं है स्टार्टअप करने का, तो देन अल्टीमेटली हो सकता है आप फंड रेज कर भी जाएं, बट यू विल नॉट बी यू नो satisfied, and if you are not happy at the end of the day, then what's the point?
Fair. Now let's switch gears. Alok, you work very closely with a lot of students across the country. I would really want to know, I'm always intrigued by this, that in today's world when you know a lot of people say that skills is the real currency, how do people on the other side of the table look at it? You know, people who are looking at employing graduates from these colleges, do they really value skills as much, or do they look at other things like brand name of the college, etc.?
We are living in a very interesting time right now, something that at least I have not seen in my small journey yet. So I would say right now, you know, there is a big flux. The old models are kind of being pushed to the brink. The models where we had big institutions, solid courses, predefined courses which were maybe running for years or decades, with the cases. So that was the pedagogy that everyone had, and if I were to take a step back, all of this was coming from that industrial revolution mindset, right? You have the industry, you are preparing people to enter into that industry, and that's the real big game everybody is vying to be in. Now over the last few years or maybe a decade now, the things have started to change very fast, very fast, and we all are a witness to that, with mobiles, internet, now artificial intelligence. Things are, there's a big bombardment of information and knowledge, and new things that can happen. So somewhere down the line, I feel that the pace at which things are changing, the ecosystems are changing, and the pace at which the earlier models of education are changing, it is not going hand in hand. And now if we talk about industry is about markets. Markets are changing.
They'll react,
right? If you maybe 15 years ago you had 20 crore people who were using internet, or 30 crore. Today the reports say that you have almost 600 crore people using internet, right? So things have changed, and the products have changed accordingly, the markets have changed accordingly, the GTM strategies have changed accordingly, right? So now so there is a gap. So personally I feel this gap is becoming wider day by day. So either the institutes need to change their approach, or else there would be maybe newer, I would not say institutions, but newer players who would come and fill this gap, players who are very agile, players who are working according to the market, players who are not afraid to change whatever their so called courses are, or the knowledge modules are, or nuggets are every semester or every month, for players who are ready to give a more experiential learning to the candidates, and somewhere down the line that aligns with the industry expectations. Now coming to the second point that you said about the brand names. So I think the brand names were built, let's say, over decades, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and it takes a lot of time for the those brand names to be becoming irrelevant. I don't think they will become irrelevant, but again, out of those big brand names, the ones that change themselves quickly are the ones who might be able to survive, and the ones that don't might cease to exist.
What is signal and what is noise, like and specifically looking at when hiring for fresh talent, and now we are in an age where AI can code, write copies, do whatnot. Maybe by the time we are taking this episode live, one more thing can get added to the already 1,000 things which it can do.
Right.
But what really should, as a second year, third year, final year student, how should I be preparing myself to be relevant in such a market?
So one is to kind of trying to read the market as much as possible, right? Because it is more important than earlier times. Because if I am in the first year, by the time I go to my fourth year and I am eligible for so-called placements, the markets would have totally changed. So the skill set that I kind of developed in my first year, as you were just mentioning, few minutes back, there's some new technology or some big change which has totally made it irrelevant, right? So whatever I learned as a skill set in first year, maybe nothing goes in vain, I would say, in the long run, but from a market standpoint, it might not be that relevant. So the first thing, if I were let's say a first year or a second year student, is to be very, very aware of the markets, not for anyone else's sake or to write in an examination, for myself. That is number one. Number two, Piyush, I think, and this is my viewpoint actually, that things are changing for good. We might see a future where the system of big enterprises no longer exists, right? Because big enterprises, all the FANG and MANG and whatever we have, right? And the FANGs and MANGs in all the industry.
Yeah.
They work on a principle, where, for lack of a better word, there is a mass production which is happening. People who are aligned or who are eligible to work in that ecosystem are joining those ecosystems, and they are good, right? I am not denying that. But slowly and gradually, we all know that knowledge economy is also getting matured. So in future, I see many of these first years and second years and third yearites, going for their own thing. So I take up a lot of interviews for many MBA colleges in their final round for the intake, and sometimes I am very surprised to see that almost 30-40% of the people or the candidates who are coming to me have a startup. Sometimes it happens that people come with a brochure, ki sir, I hope the interview went well. By the way, this is my startup. If any day, you have some inputs, do give me. And that's a stark difference from where I was in 2007, right?
And now we have a Shark Tech campus coming
absolutely, absolutely. So I see that these people, many of those, and I hope also that many of these people do something of their own, right? It might not be a startup per se. I call it more of a solopreneurship. So now keeping that thing in mind, and that's the second point, that keeping that thing in mind, taking care of their interests, taking care of their passions,
Yeah.
they can start to work towards it. So this, I would believe, might be something that is useful for the first and second rise, that for the market, be aware, develop your skill set, but also have the caution that markets might change. Second, see your passions, see what interests you, and you can at least make a small business out of it with a one-man, two-man show, right? And at least it will be good for to sustain you, that's for sure. अब बहुत ज़्यादा आप उसमें करते नहीं करते, that's a different thing, but at least आपको sustain तो कर लेगा, आपकी जिसे हिंदी में कहते हैं जीविका चल जाएगी.
I also see this trend a lot, like even at Vedam, a lot of students, and when I compare this to when I was doing engineering in 2002, like stark difference. Students are so excited about entrepreneurship. Many of them have their working prototypes ready. So and they're in first semester right now. So amazing to see that. But I also believe that it also gives student to be a chance when they build something. It gives them a lot of first principles thinking. Absolutely. Which I think in any sphere of life will be very, very useful for them.
Right.
So now because you interact with a lot of students, I would also want to know what is it apart from students being interested in entrepreneurship, which you feel is very different from when you and I were a student to now, be it different attitudes of students, expectations, how they take education, view education as. So what are the various things which are very different from then versus now?
I would say the first big difference is the confidence. The confidence of them just trying out the idea. So thankfully in the last few years or few decades, at least in India, that fear of failure has come down. The support structures have come up, and even when there are no support structures, I see a lot of them still kind of trying for their own venture, because the support system is not just about funding, but it's about so many applications and so many platforms that can help them, and those platforms are many right now. So the confidence to take that leap has really grown, number one. Then number two, the kind of ideas that people have, because AI is where it is right now and the sea of opportunities is huge, right? Whatever you think can be done. And many things are getting democratized, skills are getting democratized, technology has gotten democratized. If you just think and you do not even have a tech background, you can still kind of make an app on the idea that you had thought. So many things have gotten very easier. So people have a lot of ideas, number one, and they have a lot of confidence to take it forward, and they also get good amount of support. And because of all these three things, we see a lot of students coming out and taking their ideas forward, and not being afraid to ask inputs, or afraid to ask, let's say, or to take guidance or mentorship from people who have been there and done that.
Alok, we also listened into your TED talk recently, and you have been making some very interesting points there, and also the framework which you mentioned at the starting of the podcast, BISS. Maybe it's time now we explore that side of your journey. So why don't you talk about that?
Sure. I think, thank you for asking. BISS as a concept takes its roots from the folly of the wise, something that we are witnessing today. In fact, I have got a small book also here which kind of says about the same. So BISS is I would say a concept, an operating system that is applicable for every student for every leader and even for an investor, right? If I were to talk about the market and startups and everything, and I'll try to tell how. So right now we're living in the world of AI, right? Technology is getting democratized, skills are getting democratized, access is getting democratized, information has gotten democratized, right? Everything. So let's say if I were an investor or I was a founder, right? I'm somebody who's trying to make the markets in the next few years. What is that key differentiator that I have which differentiates me from everyone else? So that key differentiator is me myself. I as a person, I as Alok Srivastava. What is my value ecosystem? What is the way in which I take decisions? Because each of these decisions is going to impact my future, the market in which I am operating, the investors, my vendors, everyone. So ultimately the decision maker is the most important person. Now, what happens in the way we are taught, the pedagogy that we have, the skills that we teach people, right? It's great. I mean, that helps in one part of decision making, right? I ask, what's a good sales strategy? You'll tell me, these 3 models, these 4 frameworks, these are the case studies. In your product, these are 5 ways you can do it. This is how you make a sales. All sort of things. Some things are information to me, some is knowledge to me, some is skills to me, and I move forward. But then there is another angle. When you are a property manager, let's say for example, and I try to tell you with a story, and you are getting your first sales from an NRI who can be your brand ambassador in a very big country in the West, and who himself has 20 properties. And the person has said that, boss, I just need you to manage my property. I need someone who's a married couple who can stay in my property, which is locked for the last 10 years, and you make it happen. And you are not getting that couple in the market. You get somebody who is in a, let's say for example, a live-in relationship, and you have 2 choices now. Either you go back to the person and say कि boss, we've got it sorted, हमें अच्छे लोग मिल गए हैं, आपकी प्रॉपर्टी जो 20-15 साल से लॉक थी हम लोग खोल के उसके अंदर ढंग के लोग करवा देंगे, हर महीने आपको रेंट आएगा, प्रॉपर्टी आपकी सही रहेगी, इंस्पेक्शन आपके लिए कर देंगे. So that's one thing. The person is happy, the person tells 10 other people in UAE and US, and we have good customers. दूसरा चॉइस आपका ये है कि बॉस नहीं मिल रहा है, आप जो बोल रहे हो हमें बहुत क्लोज आ गए, लिव इन कपल हैं, शादी होने वाली है 2-3 महीने में, लेकिन अभी तो नहीं है, एंड आपको अभी करवाना है. सो आई गो बैक टू द पर्सन एंड से कि बॉस डील इज़ नॉट डन, सॉरी, एंड वी गॉट अ वेरी गुड set of people, but they are not exactly the kind of people that you're looking forward to. Now as a founder, what decision do you take? This is not being told in any skills ka class, this is not being told in any knowledge वाले सेशंस, दिस इज़ नॉट बीइंग टोल्ड इन एनी स्ट्रैटेजी सेशन. ये आपका एक इन्नेट डिसीजन है, शायद जो आपकी समझदारी पे या बहादुरी पे आएगा. दूसरा मैं आपको एग्जांपल देता हूँ. यू गॉट 2 राउंड्स ऑफ फंडिंग, 3rd राउंड आपका हो रहा है एंड आपको फंड्स नहीं मिल रहे हैं, एंड देन कम्स एन एंटिटी जो आपको उतना ही फंड देने के लिए तैयार है, मिलियंस ऑफ डॉलर्स जितना आपको चाहिए या उससे भी ज़्यादा, एंड यू फाउंड आउट कि ये जो एंटिटी है इनका कुछ तो क्वेश्चनेबल हिस्ट्री है, कहीं ना कहीं इनकी एक आध सब्सिडरी या पेरेंट कंपनी एक ऐसी है जो किसी ना किसी उल्टे सीधे ट्रांजैक्शन में इन्वॉल्व है. वी ऑल नो मतलब कैसे कैसे ट्रांजैक्शन रहते हैं, हवाला हो रहा है, ये हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है, कि इंडिया में मनी इस तरह से आ रहा है, उस तरह से आ रहा है. जो एंटिटी आपसे बात कर रही है उसका कोई हिस्ट्री नहीं है ऐसा, लेकिन उसकी रिलेटेड एंटिटीज़ का है. अब आपने सारे फंडिंग के लेसन्स ले रखे हैं, आपने सारे वैल्यूएशन के लेसन्स ले रखे हैं, आपके ऊपर इन्वेस्टर प्रेशर भी है, 50 इन्वेस्टर्स आपके ऑलरेडी हैं, आप क्या करेंगे? इन्वेस्टर्स से भी बात करेंगे तो वो बोलेंगे यार कर ले, वरना तो स्टार्टअप ही बंद हो रहा है, तेरा रुपया जा रहा है, हमारा रुपया जा रहा है, आपके पूरी सालों की मेहनत जा रही है. लेकिन एक और आपके अंदर है, वो कहता है कि यार ये जो है ना ये सही नहीं है, ये ये मैं ले भी लूँगा, चल भी जाएगा, हो सकता है आगे कभी कुछ फटे नहीं, चीज़ें चल जाएं, नोबडी नोज़। एंड हम तो अपनी तरफ से राइट थे क्योंकि ये एंटिटी पे तो कोई स्टेन नहीं है, लेकिन समवेयर डाउन द लाइन यू हैव टू टेक अ डिसीजन, राइट। तो ये जो 2 मैंने एग्जांपल्स आपको बताए, ये हम लोग को पॉइंट आउट एक ऐसे फ्रेमवर्क की तरफ कर रहे हैं कि इस टाइम पे जब बहुत सी बातें मैंने बोल दी, बहुत सा ज्ञान मैंने बांट लिया, लेकिन जब ये पॉइंट आता है तो आपको ही डिसीजन लेना है और कोई आपके बिहाफ पे डिसीजन नहीं ले सकता। मैं अगर फाउंडर हूँ तो ये डिसीजन अल्टीमेटली मुझे ही लेना है। और मेरे माँ बाप कुछ बोले, मेरे वाइफ कुछ बोले, मेरी सिस्टर कुछ बोले, आप कुछ बोले, मेरे फ्रेंड्स कुछ बोले, बट अल्टीमेटली डिसीजन इज माइन। जैसे एआई के टर्म्स में भी हम लोग जितना भी बोल रहे हैं कि एआई को मैं जितना भी यूज़ कर लूँ, बट अकाउंटेबिलिटी स्टिल रिमेन्स योर्स, इट रिमेन्स माइन। मैं एआई को कटघरे में नहीं ला सकता। तो ये जो सारे डिसीजंस हैं, इनके लिए लोगों को एक फ्रेमवर्क चाहिए सो दैट दे मेक द राइट डिसीजन। एंड इस फ्रेमवर्क को हम लोग बोल रहे हैं BIZS, विच इज़, अगर मैं एब्रीविएशन को एक्सपैंड करूँ, B स्टैंड्स फॉर बहादुरी, I स्टैंड्स फॉर ईमानदारी, Z स्टैंड्स फॉर जिम्मेदारी एंड S स्टैंड्स फॉर समझदारी। जैसे मैंने इस समय चश्मा पहन रखा है, तो मैं कुछ भी चीज़ यहाँ पे देख रहा हूँ तो मैं इस लेंस के थ्रू देख रहा हूँ। तो ये हम लोग का लेंस है, ये हम लोग का ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम है, जिसमें मैं हर डिसीजन जो अब लूँगा तो मैं इन 4 लेंसेज के थ्रू से पास करूँ। अगर वो पास हो रहा है तो बहुत अच्छी बात है, अगर नहीं हो रहा है तो आई एज अ पर्सन, आई एज अ फाउंडर, आई एज अ कॉर्पोरेट एम्प्लॉई, आई एज अ लीडर, आई एज अ स्टूडेंट, आई एज अ पेरेंट नाउ हैव द फ्रेमवर्क कि मुझे करना चाहिए या नहीं करना चाहिए। तो मैंने अभी आपको 2 एग्जांपल बताए, वो यही बताया। पहला था बहादुरी का। मेरे अंदर कोई ना कोई चीज़ निकल के आएगी जो बोलेगी कि यार ये डिसीजन कन्वीनियंट तो नहीं है, लेकिन ये स्ट्रॉन्ग फियरलेस डिसीजन है। यू आर बीइंग बहादुर। आपको 100 इन्वेस्टर्स की सुननी पड़ेगी, आपको अपने फैमिलीज़ की सुननी पड़ेगी, सोसाइटी में हर एक की सुननी पड़ेगी कि यार क्या, लेकिन आपने बहादुरी किया और आप ये डिसीजन ले रहे हैं। दूसरी चीज़ समझदारी, जो हम लोग ने बोला था कि आप लॉन्ग टर्म देख रहे हैं, शॉर्ट टर्म नहीं देख रहे हैं। तो जो उस कस्टमर के लिए आपने कपल के लिए बोला कि नहीं भाई ये हम लोग को नहीं मिले हैं, अब दिस इज़ द बेस्ट वी कुड डू, तो ये आपने समझदारी दिखाई, राइट। आप अगर उस फ्रेमवर्क से नहीं काम करते तो हो सकता है आप करते कि ठीक है कोई बात नहीं, 3 महीने बाद शादी होनी है, किसी को क्या ही पता चलना है, लेकिन आपने कहा कि नहीं ये शॉर्ट टर्म थिंकिंग है, मुझे लॉन्ग टर्म देखना है, तो ये समझदारी हुई। और ये दोनों एग्जांपल जो मैंने बताया ये हाइपोथेटिकल नहीं है, ये एक्चुअली मेरे साथ हुए हैं इन आवर स्टार्टअप। तो कहीं ना कहीं इन्हीं सारी चीज़ों को लेके ये BIZS का फ्रेमवर्क बना, विच इज़ एप्लीकेबल फॉर एनी फाउंडर, फॉर एनी पर्सन, कि वो अपना कोई भी डिसीजन इन 4 लेंस से करे। बहादुरी मतलब एम आई चूजिंग द कन्वीनियंट path or am I choosing the path which is not convenient but it is the right path, and there is no guru or भगवान we need for that, we all know inside। दूसरा है ईमानदारी, कि क्या मैं, आपको जब भी आप रात में सोचते हो आपको बेसिकली अपने साथ ही सोना होता है, कोई और दुनिया में है नहीं। आप जितने भी लोगों से बात कर लो, स्टूडेंट्स, टीचर्स, प्रोफेसर्स, इन्वेस्टर्स, यू स्पेंड द मैक्सिमम टाइम विद योर सेल्फ, राइट। तो क्या जब आप रात में वो हैंडशेक करते हो अपने साथ, राइट, सोने के टाइम पे, कि यार ठीक है मेरा दिन में आज मैं ईमानदार रहा, तो क्या आप आँख मिला पा रहे हो अपने आप से कि नहीं मिला पा रहे हो? दैट ओनली यू नो। सो दैट इज़ ईमानदारी। सो वी नीड टू आस्क दैट क्वेश्चन, तो उसको हम लोग ने फ्रेमवर्क में रखा है। जिम्मेदारी इज़ अ वेरी इम्पॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट, क्योंकि जिम्मेदारी में टिपिकली होता क्या है कि आजकल हम लोग वी ओनली फील रिस्पॉन्सिबल टूवर्ड्स आवर ओन सेल्फ, मे बी आवर फैमिली अ बिट, and then but we need to feel zimmedar about the society also, our nation also, our neighbors also and the planet also। अगर मैं वो नहीं कर रहा हूँ तो आई विल बी क्रिएटिंग इंडस्ट्रीज़ जहाँ पे मेरे को तो पैसा मिल गया, लेकिन शायद मैंने इतना गंद मचा दिया है कि जितने भी कंजम्पशंस का पैटर्न मैंने इतना कर दिया है कि मेरे आसपास चीज़ें जल रही हैं, मेरे आसपास चीज़ें ख़त्म हो रही है, लेकिन मुझे कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ रहा। मे बी मैं एक ऐसा ऐप बना दूं जिसमें लोग 6-6, 8-8 घंटे एडिक्ट की तरह उसे कर रहे हैं, तो मैं खुश हूँ, मेरे इन्वेस्टर्स खुश हैं, मेरी कंपनी वाले खुश हैं, मे बी मेरी फैमिली खुश है कि बहुत पैसा आ रहा है, लेकिन क्या मैंने अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी अपनी सोसाइटी के लिए किया क्या, प्लानट के लिए किया क्या? नहीं। तो अगर मेरा लेंस ये हो जाए तो शायद मैं बहुत सी ऐसी चीज़ें ना करूं जो मैं अभी कर रहा हूँ, तो माई सेंस ऑफ जिम्मेदारी गोज़ मच बियॉन्ड माई सेल्फ. एंड लास्ट पार्ट इज समझदारी, कि जहाँ पे आर यू थिंकिंग शॉर्ट टर्म और आर यू थिंकिंग लॉन्ग टर्म. एंड वी ऑल नो, मतलब शॉर्ट टर्म में जैसे हम लोग अभी हेल्थ केयर के कोर्स की बात कर रहे थे, हेल्थ केयर में प्रिवेंशन क्यों नहीं काम करता, कई बार लोगों को मालूम है क्या करना है फिर भी नहीं करते, और फिर अल्टीमेटली वही हॉस्पिटल्स और क्लिनिक्स में जाना पड़ता है, क्योंकि वहाँ पे शॉर्ट टर्म कुछ दिखता नहीं है. लॉन्ग टर्म बेनिफिट है, लेकिन वी आर ऑल ट्यून टू द शॉर्ट टर्म गेन्स. तो इट टेक्स अ लॉट ऑफ करेज टू थिंक लॉन्ग टर्म एंड टेक दोज डिसीजंस. तो इन चारों चीज़ों को हमने मिला के, एंड दिस कंसेप्ट हैज़ कम फ्रॉम द राइटिंग्स ऑफ पंडित श्री राम शर्मा आचार्य जी ओनली, comes the concept of bahaduri, ईमानदारी, जिम्मेदारी, समझदारी. And what we are trying to do is taking this to various universities, to various founders, to various corporate leaders and provide them as a lens, कि आप एक बहुत ही यूजेबल, वर्केबल, एप्लीकेबल लेंस है जो आप रोज़ यूज़ कर सकते हैं, हर डिसीजन में यूज़ कर सकते हैं, एंड दिस विल हेल्प यू टू टेक द राइट डिसीजंस एंड यू नो मूव फॉरवर्ड.
तो अर्ली स्टेज की अगर बात करें, कई बार फाउंडर के सामने इतना ज़्यादा क्योस होता है, लाइक देयर इज़ अ वे टू यू नो आइदर टू गिव सैलरीज दिस मंथ, एंड how do you expect a founder to you know comply to this framework at that point in time? Like what can be his thought process कि वो ऐसा कुछ सोचे?
And it is very true, right? You've seen it yourself, I have seen it myself. वो एक फेज़ होता है where you are in that zone कि भाई अब तो गाड़ी चलनी है, क्या करें. लेकिन I would say कि ये कहीं ना कहीं ये this is the truth, मतलब it hits you either at that time or at a later time, right? तो if I were a founder, मैं ये करता कि ऐसे टाइम पे मैं मेंटरशिप के लिए ज़रूर जाता. और जो चीज़ मैंने बोली है ऐसी कोई बहुत स्पेशल नहीं है. इनफैक्ट आप भी किसी को बोलेंगे तो शायद इसी तरह का सजेशन देंगे, या कोई भी फाउंडर वर्थ हिज और हर सॉल्ट विल टेल दोज यू नो वाइज थिंग्स जो हम लोग शुरू में जब अर्ली फाउंडिंग स्टेज रहती है, जैसा आपने बताया, तब मिस हो जाता है या फिर उसका दिखता नहीं है. तो माई अप्रोच हेयर इज़ टू फॉर एवरी फाउंडर टू हैव अ फ्यू सेट ऑफ मेंटर्स, राइट? वी हैव सो मेनी प्लेटफॉर्म जहाँ पे आपको मेंटर्स मिल जाते हैं, आप जाके वो कीजिए, बिकॉज दे विल गिव यू द पर्सपेक्टिव. आपको उस समय एक पर्सपेक्टिव चाहिए, आपको एक रीअश्योरेंस चाहिए. आवाज़ तो आपके अंदर से भी आ रही है कि यार ये सही नहीं है, लेकिन वी आर ह्यूमन बीइंग्स, वी नीड दैट वैलिडेशन कि ये चीज़ है. पीयूष सर ने भी बोल दिया कि ये है, ठीक है, चलो यार कर लेते हैं, बाद में फ़ायदा होगा, अभी नहीं है फ़ायदा, कोई बात नहीं है. आलोक सर ने बोल दिया, ठीक है कर लेते हैं. तो एक तो मुझे लगता है वो मेंटरिंग वाली चीज़ है. सेकेंड चीज़ पीयूष जी जो मुझे लगता है जो होना चाहिए इज़ यू नो वी नीड टू हैव अ रिवॉर्डिंग इकोसिस्टम अराउंड इट, राइट? एंड इट्स अ लॉन्ग शॉट बट आई विल स्टिल ट्राई टू स्पीक अराउंड इट. आप कभी भी किसी भी इनक्यूबेटर में जाते हैं या किसी इंस्टीट्यूट में भी जाते हैं, आप बोर्ड पे देखते हैं, रैंक्स का देखेंगे, आपने प्लेसमेंट्स का देखेंगे, राइट? लेकिन जो लोग ये राइट डिसीजंस ले रहे हैं उनका आप कहीं पे भी कुछ ऐसा वो नहीं देखेंगे. आपको नाम के मिल जाएंगे, ट्रूथ हाउस है, ऑनेस्टी हाउस है, एस्पिरेशन हाउस है, परफेक्शन हाउस है, बट the real ecosystem which is genuinely respecting these people and genuinely rewarding these people, मैं rewarding में money है उसकी बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, but मतलब genuinely
जैसे IPL में फेयर प्ले आया था,
राइट. और उसमें भी बस ये है कि थोड़ा सा वो जो CSR टाइप का कई बार होता है, मैं अब CSR को भी नेगेट नहीं कर रहा हूँ, वेरी गुड, बट कई बार वो होता है ना कि अरे यार ये भी कर लो, वो टिक मार्क करना है बकेट का. टिक मार्क नहीं, मतलब दिस बिकम्स एज इम्पॉर्टेंट इफ नॉट मोर देन द अदर थिंग्स दैट वी आर सीइंग. एंड मैं बोलूँगा कि इसका बिजनेस सेंस भी है. हम लोग, एंड विदाउट टेकिंग नेम्स, वी हैव सीन अ वेरी बिग यू नो कैब फर्म जो लास्ट ईयर you know which got bust. We've seen so many startups which have got bust, right? अगर आप उनके कोर में जाएंगे तो आपको कहीं ना कहीं एक डिसीजन मेकिंग में एक गलती हुई है, और वो अगर आप गलती के कोर में जाएंगे तो आप देखेंगे कि अगर ये 4 प्रिंसिपल कोई पर्सन यूज़ कर रहा होता ना, तो शायद वो नहीं करते। अब मैंने अगर लोन्स ले लेके और गलत दिखा के फ्रॉड करके मैं कर रहा हूँ, तो मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, मैं एक बहुत ही शॉर्ट टर्म चीज़ देख रहा हूँ, मैं लॉन्ग टर्म देख ही नहीं रहा हूँ कि कभी ना कभी तो चीज़ें दिखेंगी, कभी ना कभी तो लोग जानेंगे। यू नो, इट हैपेंस 1 ईयर, 2 ईयर, 3 ईयर, 4 ईयर, 5 ईयर्स लेटर, बट इट विल हैपन, इट्स द लॉ ऑफ नेचर। तो मैं क्यों ऐसा कोई डिसीजन ले रहा हूँ जो कभी ना कभी, इवन मैं मर भी जाऊँ तब भी मेरी कंपनी को तो नुकसान ही होगा, मेरे नाम को नुकसान होगा। तो इट्स अ वेरी शॉर्ट टर्म थिंकिंग, राइट। कोई अगर ग्रीड में कोई और चीज़ कर रहा है, तो अगर आप सिर्फ ये छोटी सी 4 चीज़ें अगर याद कर लें, BIZS, तो कहीं ना कहीं आप उन डिसीजन से बच जाएंगे। तो एक तो इसके बारे में थोड़ा जानें, इसके एग्जांपल्स लें। जैसे अभी मैंने 2 एग्जांपल्स अपनी छोटी सी, और मैं बोलता हूँ बहुत ही कम एक्सपीरियंस है मेरा, लेकिन एटलीस्ट मेरी लाइफ में भी कुछ एग्जांपल्स हैं। आई एम श्योर सबकी लाइफ में एग्जांपल्स हैं। तो आपको किसी फिलॉसफी के या अध्यात्म के टीचर्स से जाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, आपको तो नॉर्मल फाउंडर्स से ही बात करने की ज़रूरत है और लोगों को देखने की ज़रूरत है। एंड यू विल फाइंड कि एट द कोर ऑफ फेलियर्स यही 3 या 4 चीज़ें आपकी रहती हैं। एंड मैं बस लास्ट चीज़ इसमें बोल के अपनी बात ख़त्म करूँगा कि ये करके अगर आप सो कॉल्ड दुनिया के सामने आपका डिसीजन सो कॉल्ड अगर फेलियर भी रहता है ना, आप बहुत चैन की नींद सोते हो और आप बहुत खुश रहते हो। मैं अपने आप को उसमें एक एग्जांपल मानता हूँ कि आज मेरे स्टार्टअप को शट किए हुए 6 साल हो गए। स्टार्टअप सबका एक किड जैसे ही होता है, मन जैसा किड के जाने पे लगेगा, भगवान करे किसी का ना जाए, लेकिन जैसा लगता होगा वैसे ही शायद स्टार्टअप के ना रहने पे लगता है, और मेरे को भी लगा। लेकिन आज के जब मैं पीछे मुड़ के देखता हूँ तो आई फील वेरी सेटिस्फाइड कि जो मैंने डिसीजंस लिए थे वो सही डिसीजंस थे। मैंने कोई गलत आज मैंने वो गलत फंडिंग ले लिया होता, गलत चीज़ें से क्लाइंट्स को लाया होता, झूठ बोल के चीज़ें की होती, तो हो सकता है आज मेरा स्टार्टअप चल रहा होता बहुत अच्छा भी, हो सकता है $1 मिलियन या $1 बिलियन कुछ हो भी जाता। लेकिन शायद आपको, शायद अगर मेरे चेहरे पे एक थोड़ी सी जेन्युइन स्माइल लग रही है जो अंदर से भी है बाहर से भी है, वो नहीं रहती, तो मैं दुनिया के लिए शायद बहुत सक्सेसफुल होता, बट रात को मुझे भी कुछ गोलियां खाकर ही सोना पड़ता। आज के रोज़ मैं आपसे बोल रहा हूँ और सबसे बोल रहा हूँ कि मुझे गोलियां नहीं खानी पड़ती। मैं बहुत, मेरे इनफैक्ट मेरे डिजीज़ेस ठीक हो चुके हैं। मतलब मैं जो स्ट्रेस टेंशन के पहले जो बहुत चीज़ें थी, मेरी डायबिटीज़ 7.6 रहता था, आज मेरा डायबिटीज़ विदाउट मेडिसिन 6 आ गया है। तो इट क्रिएट्स अ हेल लॉट ऑफ अ डिफरेंस इन वंस लाइफ, इन वंस family relationships, public relationships, the way you are dealing with others can feel your energy also. तो all in all फ़ायदे का सौदा है करना चाहिए.
Thank you, Alok. That was very, very insightful. We have a custom here at Out of Office where every time we take a question from our guests and we pass that question to the next guest. It's sealed in an envelope, so we don't know it. You will open it up for the first time for our viewers.
Interesting. What is going to be the impact of technologies, AI, quantum, etc., on the mental health of human beings? Wow, what a question. So Piyush, I am in touch with a lot of students, as I told you, with a lot of them in the Gen Z category, also with a few psychologists and professors, right, and the teachers. And what I am seeing right now, unfortunately, is that AI is replacing that, friend wala ecosystem, right? And it is happening too soon and across all the age brackets, which is kind of driving a lot many people towards loneliness, towards depression, towards anxiety, towards panic attacks, and many other things. I kind of volunteer also for these activities at various places, but just to give you a sense, in many of the colleges, without naming them, the cases have increased by 10 times.
Wow.
10 times. So the impact of technologies right now, of AI and quantum, etc., on mental health of human beings, right now, I would say it is going in a negative direction. But having said that, in future, I hope and I believe, there would be a balance which would be struck, because these technologies are also important and the welfare of human beings is also equally important, if not more, and of everyone in the planet. The future for which I am hoping and praying is a future where, both things strike a balance, and in those moments, in that era, maybe we'll see a positive trend where people might use AI for some sort of a welfare, but they also use their humans ecosystem to take things forward. But right now, the impact is, I would say, negative, and some psychologists are also saying, the ones that I am in touch with, that we might see a generational depression.
Wow.
Right? It's a very, very concerning matter, and which is coming towards us. So I hope we do not get to see it.
Yeah, no, the problem is for real, and specifically concerned more towards the primary grades in schools, because there the students are getting raised on
Yes,
AI.
yes,
So
yes.
I think that's even a more concerning stage.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So thank you, Alok.
Thank you so much.
Now, just to reciprocate, we would also have a question from your side, which we will hand it over to our guests in the next episode. And can I have the paper in question, please? There you go. Sure. Thank you, Alok. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks,
and listening to your thoughts for the next generation, as well as how we should be looking at our day-to-day decisioning framework. Also, it was great fun to learn about your whole journey, including the ones where you had your own startup, as well as when you were part of your early founding teams at Rivigo and OYO. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Piyush ji, and it was equal pleasure to be here and to have such a meaningful and lively conversation. So thanks for having me here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm wishing you all the best in your endeavors.
All right. That was quite a meaningful conversation. For me, takeaway from Alok was simple. Success is not only about moving fast. It's about doing the right things in the right way and taking the right decisions. I hope each one of you will take away something for your own journey. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who will love this. This is Piyush Nangru signing off from Out of Office, and meanwhile, do step out of your offices once in a while. Take care. Bye-bye.